Welcome to another episode of Presentation Hell. Today with us we have Deborah Torres Patel, a voice presentation and speaking expert. And she is going to give James and I advice on how to monitor our voice and work on our tone because, as we all know, how you speak is maybe even more important than what you are actually saying. Is people really respond?
It's not what you say; it's how you say it.
And that. And so, Deborah, thank you for being here today. I'm just going to get right into it.
Okay.
I hate my voice.
Okay.
I think it's high. It's shrill. When I get excited, it gets higher and shriller. And compounded, I spend probably 3/4 of my day communicating through Skype and Zoom and online. And I end up, I feel like I'm shouting to get through the microphone, to make sure I'm heard. There's also a delay, so I could be speaking at the same time somebody else starts speaking, so it cuts me off, and then I feel like I'm interrupted. So at the end of the day, literally my throat is tired.
Okay.
Like it's almost sore.
Sure. Got it.
And in my biggest dream, like if I really had my way, I'd want like a really deep husky voice, like Marilyn Monroe, and then everybody would do what I want them to. Is that possible? So if you can make me sound like Marilyn Monroe,
I don't know.
I'll like you'll be my hero. I'll buy you
Okay.
drinks for the rest of your life.
Oh well. Hopefully my liver would survive. But anyway, we'll do our best. So
Okay.
There's a few things. So the first thing is, again, most of the time you're sitting down when you talk.
Yes.
Correct.
Correct.
And so that means that anatomically our posture is important. Like right now, I'm short. I have shorter legs, So for me, I've just adjusted my posture so that my feet are on the floor. So I want you to do that if
I'm
you
sitting
can.
cross-legged right now.
Right. So yes. So and so you need to be grounded. So if you're standing, you would. I won't do the standing version now, but if you're standing, it would be a lot more natural to be grounded, but you could bend your knees. So, let's say, for example, if you're going to throw a ball into a basketball hoop or you're going to jump up, you have that grounding, that feeling of putting some weight into it before you jump.
So having your feet set,
Having
and
your
a
feet
sound
firmly
foundation,
planted on the floor.
a sound foundation helps
Yes.
through your diaphragm and everything
Yes.
for the rest of your
So
body.
take your
Okay.
laptop off your lap
Yes.
and sit up straight.
Yes, great. Now,
Okay.
the other thing is if you're looking at your laptop and it's down, then what's happening is your voice is going down too. So, in an ideal world, you're going to have some setup where your laptop is at eye level, if you're at a laptop, or here there's a monitor in front of us. So, at that monitor in front of you. And of course, we also need to know where the camera is, because if we're looking in the middle of the screen, it's not where people are.
Right.
So it's actually if I'm looking this direction, it's where the camera is. So that, and what's challenging about that in terms of connection and even getting a feeling for what people are thinking or feeling is that you can't see them.
Right.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about the anatomy of voice and the physiology of getting a good sound, and I'll show you several different ways to hopefully get to your goal. Although I don't necessarily, I thought Marilyn Monroe was a little bit more breathy, but anyway, well, how about we just go for your $1 million voice, okay?
Right.
So, but also, if we don't have time in this episode, we'll do another episode where we talk about having your words sound like what they mean, which is also important to make that connection. And what's that Maya Angelou quote you usually
It's not
say?
what you say, it's how you make people feel.
People will forget what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel.
Yes. And one of the things that you mentioned about the dislike of your voice is that it's nasal, it's shrill, but
I'm from Connecticut.
but the good news is the way you speak, and part of the reason that you're tired at the end of the day, although look, 10 hours on some video platform nobody wants to do, however, is that you're using what I call residual airflow. So it's mostly from your chest and you're speaking from your throat. So I want you to, like I said, have your feet on the floor, and you want to feel your sit bones, right? And you want to feel your sit bones almost as if, that place where right before you have to transfer your weight to get up, you want to feel like you're grounded right at the base of your pelvis,
Mhm.
right? So as if you were standing, it would be like your legs are straight underneath you, okay?
Right.
So I want you to think of not speaking from here, but speaking from down here. In reality, the
Here
diaphragm.
being your neck,
From your
Yes,
down
yeah,
here
from your
being
throat.
your hips,
Yes,
your
so
pelvis,
so now, and different people.
your core.
Yeah, you're absolutely.
People like
That's
to call it
perfect.
in
From
Pilates.
your core.
Speak
Exactly.
from your core.
Exactly. Same thing with yoga, same thing with any sport. No matter what you do, the core is absolutely critical. So that's, and you want the core of your voice to come from the core.
Right.
So I'm going to ask that if it's okay with you, we're going to do something, it's not singing, but it's more extended tone.
Okay.
So first of all, people have a vocal range that most people use a vocal range that's around 3 or 4 notes. So it's not a lot of, it's not like you're singing karaoke or singing Whitney Houston or anything like that. So we want to find what your lowest comfortable note is, because let's say, for example, if you get excited, your pitch may go up.
Goes way up.
Your speed may go up. So, and that means that a lot of times you don't have breath underneath the tone.
Mhm.
Just like we need gas or petrol, depending what country you're in, to fuel your vehicle. Hopefully not. I mean, hopefully we're going to have electric. But anyway, for now, some people are still using vehicles. There's that fuel. You need that fuel. So your breath is the fuel for sound.
And that comes from your core.
Yes, it comes from your
deep.
core. So actually, we could do an exercise. If you want to imagine that your belly is like a balloon. So you want to fill up your belly, just fill up your belly with air, and then just exhale it like this. And when you blow out your air, you'll notice that your stomach muscles come in a little bit, or your stomach relaxes.
Yeah.
So you want to, again, let's do it. Filling up with air, breathe in, and then release. Now, one of the things you mentioned is you like ballet. I heard that before.
Yeah.
So in dance, a lot of times the breathing is very high, but we want to have a much lower breath. So a breath like you're not holding in your
The
tummy.
yoga breath. I
Yes,
just
like
felt
a
like I
yoga
was
breath.
doing yoga
Absolutely.
breath.
Perfect. So you want to do that. So I'm going to use Alex first and have you not do this for a moment. So what I want you to do is just allow a deep breath, and then all we're going to do is just say ah, right? So I'll demonstrate first.
Okay.
So just allow a deep breath, and on the exhale, just go ah on any note that's comfortable. Good. Now I want you to repeat after me. I'm going to use the tone that you used. Which is the tone that you used. Yeah, that's a tone. Okay, so I want you just to repeat and use that same tone. Now it's going to sound a little bit monotone, but I'm helping you to drop the pitch of your voice. So when I speak, do it like that.
When I speak.
Okay, good. Now I want you to say, when I speak, and I want you to open your mouth. When I speak, when I speak.
When I speak, when I speak.
Good.
The second time it was lower, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Number one, your physiology was open. Now, when we are connected to, meaning physiologically, your core was supporting your breath.
Okay.
And it was a lower tone than you normally speak at.
Yes, it was.
So, and what's important.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, but what's important is it has to be comfortable.
Mhm.
Like my lowest tone is actually higher than yours, but because I have breath support and I open my mouth when I speak, the sound can come out, so my voice sounds more pleasant to the ear. Does that make sense?
So I'm hearing my 4th grade music teacher about opening your mouth and enunciating and using your breath.
Yes, we are still. That
Is
was good.
really-
Yes. So now I want you to. What is it? Do you do yoga or
I do
Pilates
yoga,
or
ballet,
what?
I do it all.
Okay. So I'm going to ask, because it's harder sitting down. So it's easier when you're standing up. But this set, it will stay sitting down.
Want to
So
set? We can move the camera.
no,
Stand
it's
with it.
okay. So we'll do it this way for now. So we do. I want you to just do an arm movement, and I'll show
Okay.
you. I'll demonstrate first. I just want you to go, when I speak, just like that.
When I speak.
Okay. So, okay, now go, Your lowest comfortable note. Now do it down here. When I speak, just down on that low tone.
When I speak.
Good. So
It's
the
calmer.
Yeah.
It's calmer.
And it's more centered.
When I speak. And I can feel it in my core. I'm not up in my throat, which by the end of a long day is killing me. I can feel it now in my core, and I feel like my lungs and my diaphragm moving.
Yeah.
Like I feel that they're activated. I feel the motion coming from there now.
Good. Now you also need to breathe more frequently. Part of the reason your breath gets unsupported is you're not breathing enough. Like in yoga, we will breathe and before we do a movement. The breath is connected with the movement. So in the past, it takes a little time, sort of like, rubbing patting your head and rubbing your tummy. You want to train yourself physiologically to have the breath support your tone. You will do that, but then when the pitch changes or when you start feeling it or you hear it get nasally and thin, it's because the breath isn't underneath it.
Got it.
So it means that you need to breathe a little bit more frequently, which also may mean for a short time until you build the muscle, you might need to speak a little bit slower. But one way you can speak slower is to over-exaggerate your words.
So by over-exaggerating my words, by speaking slower, by engaging my diaphragm and pelvis and enunciating, I will be able to lower my voice and therefore speak more calmly, which gives you more credibility in business.
Absolutely.
Because nobody wants to hear anyone who sounds hysterical, man or woman.
Yeah.
And this is more monotone for me.
Yeah, but and again, if it's okay with you, we'll jump to connecting to how you say it. So let's say, for example, do you have a favorite quote? Do you have a favorite quote? Or just use the Maya Angelou
Let's
quote.
keep on Maya Angelou.
So get the Maya Angelou quote, and I want you to take this pen, and I want you to underline what you feel the most important words are in that quotation. Or the key words. All right?
Okay.
So those especially, you want to have them sound like what the meaning is. So what's the first one you underlined?
People.
So what if you had an image in your mind of people, or if you were going to put people on a PowerPoint slide, what visual would come to mind?
The first visual that comes to mind for me would be my friends, my family, my colleagues, the people I interact with.
Good.
I want you to think of inner circle every day.
I want you to think of a group of people that you could see at one time. So
my team.
Okay,
at Shuffler.
Great. Again, I want you to
time and place.
And if you lose the connection and you feel like stuck, I want you to release and exhale your air. So before you say people, I want you to blow out all your air, and then just rather than take a breath, I want you to allow a breath. Okay? So just blow out all your air. Allow a breath like you were doing yoga, and then say the first part of that sentence.
People will forget what you said.
Okay. And then what's the next keyword?
How you made them feel.
Okay.
Phrase.
So feel, when you think of feeling, what comes to mind? Or where do you feel from? Do you feel in your heart? Do you feel in your gut?
I feel in my heart and my gut.
Perfect.
I think they're one and the same.
So let's try both.
Okay.
Okay? So the key word for there is just how you make them feel, right? How you make them is a transition phrase.
So
feel. So
feel.
The first time, I want you to say I'll demonstrate how you make them feel. That's how I feel when I touch my heart, right? And now I'll say how you make them feel. You hear there's a difference because I got it more in my gut. Or if I put it down here, I'll do how you make them feel. You hear the difference?
Yeah.
So for me, my most powerful voice comes from when I feel like it's almost coming from my sacrum, right? But some people connect better with the heart. Some people connect better from here. Other people connect better from down here.
It's interesting. Those are all yoga chakras.
Yeah, how about that?
In Hindu, that's a whole. They have a whole system about those parts of the bodies
and different colors and all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
So feel my throat, how they made me feel in my gut, and how you made me feel in my pelvis.
Which one feels better?
I would say lower in my
Me
pelvis.
too,
I
me
feel
too.
stronger. It's like a trunk. That's the root.
So one of the good things is if you're on a virtual call, for example, and you're not on, like right now I have my hands here. It looks a little bit sort of,
Yeah,
you know,
she's got her hands on her hips.
Yeah,
if you're just
sorry,
listening,
if you're listening
just
in,
her
I've got my
on her
hands on my
hips.
hips. But you could even just, you could just have your hands on your lap, but rest your elbows around your pelvis. It depends on how long your arms are. But what you want to do is you want to imagine that your sound is coming from here. Even when I do that, you hear that my voice drops in pitch.
Right.
So, and what's good about that is once you lock into that physiological connection, you're going to constantly return to that physiology. So you don't necessarily have to hear it. You need to feel it. There you go.
Feel
Good.
it from
Awesome.
your pelvis. So let me summarize, to lower your voice, breathe slowly, breathe in, allow for air, and speak deep down from your core, from your hips, and enunciate. Let the air go into your mouth.
Yes.
And slow down a little bit. It's okay to speak more slowly.
And especially if you're on global calls, you need to remember that some people's English is some people's second, third, or fourth language. So also giving people a bit more time allows and over-articulating. And this is especially important if you have a regional accent, or let's say I have an awesome client from Korea that I'm working with right now, and he has some issues with forming some sounds and things like that, and he has to really work hard. And the Korean language is much, it's not as open as, let's say, Italian, right? So it feels like I am over exaggerating my words right now, but I don't look like an idiot. It feels like I'm over exaggerating. So what people, but if I close my mouth like this, you hear how the sound can't come out? And all I've done is I've changed my physiology and I'm speaking more from up here. I can't even get the air because I don't have enough opening for the air to come out. So it's almost like you're an open vessel, right? And so that your communication can come from your core, being really grounded, and then you send that up and through your body.
And through.
Yeah, and connecting to the eyes of the people that you're speaking with. So that other thing will help you. So if you're feeling it from here, it comes up your whole body, and then I'm going to just turn sideways so you can see. And let's say I'm looking at James, so I'm sending my sound to James's eyes, which means the sound is projecting. I'm not going to do that now. I'm looking at your eyes, but I'm not projecting my sound. You hear the difference in my voice?
Yes.
It's not. It's much more shallow.
Right.
As soon as I send my sound, and that also forces me to look him in the eyes and have that more profound connection, because my focus is on him, and I'm actually sending the sound to him, which is basically getting my ideas across. And they say that communication does not occur unless the listener gets it.
Right.
So that's another thing about creating that connection with your audience, is that you want to be focused on the listener. So you want, and again, this is a physiology, and now for those of you, if you haven't done ballet or haven't used your core or anything like that, you could just try maybe jumping up and down, like doing some jumping jacks, or just running in place or something like that, just to get a sense of
shake
your
everything
core,
up.
just get a sense of where your core is, and you want to speak from your whole body. So I'm going to teach those of you listening, and I'll just ask that you both do it, so just to show them how they might be able to find this for themselves. Okay, so I want you to both have your feet on the floor. You want you to be really grounded in your core, and I'm going to ask that you over exaggerate. So you're going to be just doing this when you speak, as if you're sending that sound. Okay, so, and just repeat after me. I'll say it, then you say it after me. Okay, when I speak,
when I speak,
I need to be aware
I need to be aware
of connecting my voice to my breath,
of connecting my voice to my breath,
and then connecting to the eyes of my audience.
and then connecting to the eyes of my
You
audience.
see that?
Yeah.
And your voice does sound different. Now, again, we've made a big leap just now, but as you practice it, you will get more comfortable in this other place, which is more powerful for you and is lower. And then you can expand. So it doesn't necessarily happen all at once. It takes practice, just like fitness. If you're out of shape, it might take 3 weeks of practice,
Right.
or it might take 3 weeks of
I
exercise.
could say that I fall more into those techniques when my audience is getting it from me. If I'm speaking with someone and it's becoming closer and closer, what I just went through, I naturally start falling more into that technique.
Yeah,
But what you just said, I just recognized it.
Well,
That's
yeah,
all.
and but when you're not face to face, you have to do that. Like, let's say if we're at lunch with somebody, we might be engaging across the table, but we're not necessarily doing that. And so, in a way, we have to be. And I don't mean this because at most we want to be authentic, but it feels a little bit more theatrical because it's a one-sided communication if you're only talking to a camera. So that's why the meaning of the words have to come through. So let's say when you think of the word people, you're seeing people you love. When you think of feel, it's anchored in a feeling. If you're talking about agenda, that might be something that's more of a mind
list
type
of
of thing. Yeah, a
things
list of
to
things.
do. It's a
or if you
to-do
talk about
list.
productivity, it might be something else. But ideally, for any keyword that you have, you should have a connection with it. Now, here's the really good news. With whatever profession you do or whatever your role is, there's going to be a certain vocabulary that you repeat over and over and over again. Like if we look at presentation, what comes
That's
to
the
mind?
jargon of the
No, but let's say if we just take this apart, right? The word presentation, what comes to mind?
standing in front of someone.
Yeah. For her, it's
For me,
slides.
it's
For you,
slides.
it's standing in front of. And look, there's no right answer. And look, if you're not creative and nothing comes to your mind, just look it up on the dictionary, a thesaurus, right? So if you say presentation, you might be saying a slide, right? You might go presentation, right? That's
There's
a
a
different.
crowd.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no wrong answer. And then hell, what comes to mind?
Burning hell.
Right. What comes to mind? Same thing for you, or
Pain.
something different?
No. It looks like a journey to me.
Okay, good. So the way you say presentation hell will be completely different than the way you
Because it
say
means-
it because of the images that you have
It
and what it
means
means
something
to
different.
you.
That's interesting. Words mean different things to different people.
And that's how it becomes authentic. That's how you become engaging. That's how you become not boring. That's how
right.
you're not monotone.
They know-
That's how you also monitor the volume at which you speak. Right? Because feeling is a much softer volume than, what was the first word you said?
People.
Well, people's also more on the soft side, but presentation is more on the heavier side.
heavy,
And,
right.
agenda is like a list or a mental agenda. So, and there's no wrong answer. That's the really good news. And so when you're in the flow of communication, you can just be connected to what you're saying, and then the how you say will follow based on your being present to what it is you're
And your
doing.
thoughts will come together better in a more
Absolutely.
cohesive sentence when that does
Absolutely.
happen.
Yeah, and if you're not a person who speaks naturally and words just naturally flow from you, you can use your notes. You can use your PowerPoint slides. So it's pretty cool, isn't it? It's a very simple hack, but it works.
And then the interesting thing I want to jump on is, James, you had said when I'm speaking and it's resonating, I naturally go down to my core and speak from my core. But I also know working with you, you're usually like 10 paces ahead of everybody else. And as you explain something, and if they're not getting it, usually me, I'm the one not getting it, like your pitch goes up because as you get more frustrated and you're trying to explain, and then at that point you lose your audience. Because then it just becomes an exercise in frustration. So for somebody like James, or any of us, whenever we're trying to, communicate with other people, especially in work, and you're trying to motivate them to do something and act, and you don't see that they're getting it. And your frustration level goes up, and you start to get angry, or you're anxious, or whatever, all those emotions, which we all have. Then what are tips for monitoring that and trying to pull back from that?
Well, I mean, to me, everything when it comes, if we stay focused on voice, it's about the breath. But, breathing
If
is
you
about
lose your
quality
breath,
of
you can't continue
life.
with what's going on.
On I use an Apple Watch, it reminds me to breathe. And so, those types of things you just need to be aware of and really take that time. I think the other thing that's really important is remember you want to ask questions of your audience. So if they're not getting it, you could say something like, I see a little bit of confusion and hesitation in the room. Let's take a pause here for a moment. Does anybody have a question about what I just said?
And you're giving them that space, which is what we just talked about 10 minutes ago.
But see, a lot of times people will just go on and on and on because they figure they have to get that presentation out there, or they need to talk more, or they need to. And the other thing is, he might speed up, but your voice will get higher and less supported. So it's the same issue, and it's a physiological groundedness. And that's why I say it's about professional development and personal development, because if you're breathing better, guess what? You get more oxygen, your heart rate is lower. If you tend to be somebody who gets nervous or frustrated, then it's going to keep things even keel, which again will help you to slow down, which is absolutely critical for a global audience.
So it's a lesson in self-awareness as well. It's just as much
like
self-awareness
yoga,
as it is where you're pushing your breath from and how you're enunciating the words.
As much as anything else, there was one small tactic that was brought up in the very beginning here, that if you don't do it, everything here fails. And that is, if you're looking down at your computer like this, your voice box is now crimped. You can't breathe. Your vocal cords are now bent. You can't get low. I can't do this. Everything disappears. Everything you trained for and did it, yet we're putting our laptops down there and do it. So if there's one thing you can remember is keep your chin up.
Or keep your chin at, and I'll
level.
just go sideways, at an anatomical level so that your body is aligned. And again, it's easier when you're standing up. So if you have any question about it, you can stand up, or you can lay on the floor and get a sense of what that feels like. And then you want to take that, and what we've been talking about all along is really feeling your core, or for me, I call them my sits bones. It's like the pelvis, the actual skeletal bones,
The bones
that sit
that you're
against
sitting on.
there, and that's where I feel it from.
Right.
For me, it's harder, even though I sang and I've done lots of work on myself. For me, that automatically kicks me in. So here's another really quick fun tip, okay? And we'll end with this. So let's pretend we're Superman or Wonder Woman, and we're going to have our hands on our hips like this, okay? So I just want you to repeat after me. Yeah, the power pose. Yeah. So Amy Cuddy talks about that all the time. So just now, I want you to feel like the voice is coming right from this power pose, and just repeat after me. When I speak,
When I speak,
this physiological exercise will automatically ground my voice.
Will automatically ground my voice.
Good.
It actually works.
Yeah, how about that? Now just drop your hands.
We were in harmony as well.
Exactly. So now try it again. You can even imagine that your hands are there even while you're relaxing. I'm feeling it more with my elbow there now. So again, same thing. When I speak, I need to be aware.
I need to be aware.
To be grounded in my chair.
To be grounded in my chair.
To be able to have powerful posture.
To be able to have powerful posture.
And align naturally. As I would be if I were standing up.
As I would be if I were standing up.
So one last thing, if you're injured or you have any issues with your back or anything like that, that's obviously a different situation. But
you get a pass.
Yeah, but you want it. But then you might be sitting down. But so you want to just feel comfortable. It is extremely important that our feet are on the ground. So if you have really short legs, you might need to have one of those little stools that they have for toddlers, or a book or something else under, or a pillow, but it really does help. And when the moment is brief and the stakes are high, which is generally what the case is when you're presenting, you want to be able to be as physiologically supported as possible, to be as present and open as possible. So all these exercises that we're talking about, you want to practice them in low stakes situation. You don't want to just go straight into a really important meeting, because it's just like getting fit, or let's say if you do yoga, or let's say if you're a runner and you just run.
That means if you want to practice, your cat can be a good audience.
Yes, absolutely. Or you can practice at the grocery store. You can practice while you're talking with your kids. You can practice anytime you speak.
What it also means is no more taking those remote calls, sitting all curled up on my sofa with a cup of coffee and the camera turned off, because that's my favorite position.
Well, what that means is that people hear your posture and they don't really know it. You might think you're not on the camera, but they hear your posture.
Yeah.
It's just like saying smile when you talk to someone. They can hear it on the other end of the phone. It's similar. So a couple of things just to kind of sum up what we went through. Keep your feet on the ground flat. It provides a nice foundation for your breathing. That provides your core. The strength comes from your hips when you speak, but it can come from your right in the center core, and also up in your larynx. And you don't want to be in the I'm looking down at my computer type of thing, because that'll wipe out everything. You can't breathe, your vocal cord and everything. And when all this is aligned, your best, most confident self is going to come out, and people are going to feel confident that they're listening to you, understanding what you're saying, and you're going to communicate better and make better audience.
Awesome. Do you hear how his voice improved too?
Yeah.
Well
Thank you. Without the
Great job, guys.
just a little while ago, I couldn't have done that. We've come a long way, and that's the journey we were going through.
Yeah.
We take
This
a
is the
bunch of
journey
people
for
and we go
Presentation
through
Hell.
the journey together.
Yeah, great.
And that's
Awesome.
Presentation Hell. Thank you, Deborah.
you're
And
welcome.
wonderful having you here
Yeah,
today.
it's
This
been a
is great.
pleasure.
I feel better. I'm going to do better tomorrow. Thank you.